Hi class, this is going to be the last video for Lab 3. So I am in my working directory and I'm signed in as DevOps. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up script 6 for Lab 3. I have the code on D2L, so you can create it there. Create it from that content. Okay, so we looked at this before, but I'm going to create a user account called Fred. Now I'm storing that user account name as a variable, and I'm storing the password also as a variable. Now here I am using that variable, and here I'm using that variable, then piping it over to a little application that will encrypt it. And I'm just going to make it present. Save this, just so I can go full screen. I'm going to use my terminal. You can use the terminal in code. So I'm going to check there's no typos. And then execute it. So if I SSH as Fred to RHS2, use our password, and we're able to get in, no problem. So I'm going to exit from RHS2. It doesn't take a genius to understand that this isn't very secure because Fred's password is stored in a plain text file. So what we're going to do in this lab is how can we put sensitive data, in this case just the password, but it could be any variable that you feel is sensitive, or all your variables maybe are sensitive. How can we put those in an encrypted file? So here's what we're going to do. We need to back some things out of from other labs. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename our old host variable file for RHS2. So to rename a file, you use the move command. Move it from one name to another. So I'm going to do host var rhs2.contoso.com. That's a file, and it contains variables that we used in an earlier lab. And then I'm going to move it to same directory, but I'm just going to call it backup. The reason I need to do this is because I need to create a folder with that name. Because when we create an encrypted file, it needs to be saved as the file name vault, and it needs to be stored in a directory with the same name as our inventory host. In this case, our inventory host is rhs2.contoso.com. So I can't have a file name and a directory name that match. So I'm just going to back this file up. Now if I list it, I can see I have that file as a backup. So now I'm going to make a directory, and I'm going to do the -p just so it suppresses any errors. If it's already created, it won't cause an issue. It won't generate an error. Echo $? And I can see I have a return code of 0. So it didn't generate any errors. If I rerun the same command, it won't generate any errors because I have that -p. The p does two things. It suppresses any errors, and it also creates any parent directories you're missing. So the next thing we're going to do is uh, we're going to create this script. I already have it created. Code lab 3 script 7. So it's already created. Um, I'm going to rerun lab 6 and remove that user account Fred. So I'm just going to change this to absent. So Fred is no longer on. There's no user account called Fred on RHS2. And this will just delete the Fred user account. So I'm going to go back to code. And when I look at script 7, I can see it's pretty much the same exact script, but I don't have any variables. Because what we're going to do is store those variables in a file, then encrypt that file. So the next thing we're going to do is create a new file. So all we did was remove the variables out of the script and store them in this file, which we're going to encrypt. So I'm going to go back to my terminal. If I list host vars, all I have is the backup old variable file for RHS2 and a directory called RHS2. So I'm going to save this. Save file as. I'm going to call it temp var. It could be any name you want. It doesn't really matter. It's only a temporary file. I'm going to press save. And now I'm going to encrypt that file. Ansible vault encrypt temp var. It's going to ask for the new password you want to use. I'm using our standard password. It's going to ask us to type it twice because we can't see our password for security reasons. And now that file is encrypted. I'm going to go back to code. And code automatically updated the file. All I see is my encrypted file now. I don't see my original value. So I'm just going to close this out. I don't want to accidentally mess it up. Go back to our command prompt. And I want to give you a few more things I can do with this file. First, I'm going to move it in the proper location. So I'm going to move and rename it at the same time. I need to put this under this directory, and it needs to be called vault. If Ansible sees a file under host variables under a folder matching an inventory host name, and that file is called vault, it will automatically use that file for the variables. So I'm going to do var host why is this not working? List. Sorry, I need to change. Sorry, I have it reversed. move temp var to var, I did it again, host var RHS2, and I'm going to call it vault. So this is the current name. I'm going to move it into this directory and rename it vault. Now if I wanted to view that file, keep in mind it's encrypted, I could do Ansible vault, view the file, again, all these commands are in D2L. I'm going to type in the password that we use to encrypt, and it's going to show me that file, the contents of that file. It's going to unencrypt it and show it to me. If I wanted to make a change to that file, I can just do this with edit. It's going to ask me for the encryption password, and then it puts me in VI, and I can make changes using VI. I'm not going to make any changes. I'm just going to do :Q. That'll exit out of VI. I could decrypt the file. I'm not going to actually do that, but I've also included the command to decrypt it, which is decrypt. Now, let's say your password got compromised. You want to change the password on that vault file. So you can just do rekey. If you go up to Ansible, if you go up to Ansible docs and do a search of Ansible Vault, there's a lot of things you can do with this file. A lot of different ways to use it. I'm just going to just do the most common. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to run the playbook, and we're going to have it prompt us for our uh, encrypt password. So first I'm going to verify that the file is good. There's no typos. And again, I'm using my alias. Now I'm going to run it. But this time I'm going to do vault ID, then at prompt. Now I could put that password in another file that only I can read um, by changing the permissions to, something like 600. So at that point, only my user account can read it. And then I'm going to put the script name. I'm just going to have it prompt me for the password. So if I don't have it prompt me, and it was successful in doing what it wanted to do, it's going to give me an error because it sees a file called vault. If that file is present, you need to supply the password, either in a file or have it prompt you on the command prompt. But in any case, if that vault file is present and playing around with it, it could be vault anything. If it starts with vault underscore any other characters except for period, it will use that file. So we don't want to have future labs messed up. So what we're going to do is we're going to move that file to a different name so we don't have to keep typing in our password. So I'm going to move it from vault to vault.backup. But if there wasn't a dot here and it started with vault, it would use that file. It would always prompt you for a password. So you need to be very careful with that. So I'm just going to move it out of the way so in the future we don't have to keep typing our password. Okay, guys, I have a lab out there that I want you to do. I want you to create a playbook called lab3_script8.yml, and this should create 4 user accounts. I want you, and I give you the name of the 4 user accounts. The variables for the user accounts should be stored in the playbook itself, but the password should be stored in an encrypted file. And again, it needs to be called vault. I need you to make sure that that password gets hashed using SHA-512. And if you're missing any directories or anything like that, I need to make sure that you add those directories. Okay, that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next lab.